name is Clayborne. I am the Executive Vice President of AIA Virginia. And I'm so pleased on behalf of our organization to be able to partner with the American Institute of Architecture students. We have Carmen Israelson, who's here, as well as Adam Focal, who is the Vice President, both dear friends of ours. And we thought at a time like this, I mean, what better way to form a partnership when you're facing a tough time, not only in the economy, but just getting jobs, as you go. So with that, I would like for our president, who is Beth Reeder, FAIA out of Winchester, Virginia, just to kind of give a few opening remarks. Beth?
Thanks, Corey. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us on this Zoom call. I'm so glad that we have so many mentors that have stepped up to volunteer and so many new graduates and students that are interested in partnering with the mentors. I was just going to give you try to give a little brief history of my experience in architecture to show you that, to give you some perspective on how architecture has its highs and lows and depends on the economy to some extent. It's a little bit of a cyclical profession. So when I started college in the early 80s, people would tell me, oh, it's a good time to be a student because you don't want to be coming out now and graduating now. There's no jobs. So I was like, oh, I took it with a grain of salt. But then when we were in college, Faye Jones came to speak, and he was like an amazing architect, and he was so talented, yet he was so humble and so sincere. And he talked to the students, he talked to us about being a young architect during the Depression of the 30s and how difficult that was and how he had no work. And I was just like, wow, I hadn't really thought that there might be some difficulties or obstacles in my future as an architect. So then I got out of college, got a job, and after 3 years, sure enough, late 80s, early 90s, the economy tanked. There was a big building recession. And that's actually, I got laid off. My husband, who worked with me in the same firm, was put on part-time. And that's when we actually started our office, which seems counterintuitive, but actually during recessions are times when a lot of firms actually do start because there aren't many possibilities to work elsewhere. So we struggled. I mean, it was a struggle. But by 2006, we decided, well, we're stable enough, we'll buy an office building and we'll renovate it. So we did that. And sure enough, after we did that, the Great Recession came in 2007 to 2010 range, and it was tough. And during this recession, we had employees to think about, and we didn't in the first one. But, retain your employees and not laying them off, not reducing their hours or their benefits or their time, that was our priority then. So just to give you some perspective, this is a difficult time to graduate, but there's been other difficult times, and you're not alone, and you're going to get through this, and everything's going to work out. So one nice thing now for you guys is that the possibility of remote work, which wasn't an option like in 1990, for instance. We didn't even have the internet. For instance, my son is a third-year architecture at Virginia Tech student, and he's working in Brooklyn this summer, but from Winchester and Blacksburg. So the possibilities for remote work are a good thing to your benefit. And I just wanted to tell you guys to take advantage of these mentorship situations. These mentors are volunteering to help you and to give you guidance and input and encouragement. Don't feel intimidated by them because they're older than you. Just reach out to them, and they've been through one or more recessions themselves or difficult economic times. And so thank you all for participating, and thanks to all the mentors that are helping and volunteering their time. And thank you, AIS, for participating in this as well.
That's great, and thank you, Madam President, for those inspirational words. And look at you now, you're on the cover of magazines and everything else. So thank you. Adam, I was looking at the wrong name. Adam, you wanna give a few words?
Thanks, Corey. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Clayborne, the current Vice President for the American Institute of Architecture students.
Not getting any audio.
Oh, no audio.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Speaker. You guys hear me now?
We could hear you before.
Oh, okay. Sorry, there was a lot going on. Hi. Okay. Hi again. Off the rail. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I'm super excited to partner with AIA Virginia on this.
Who is the host?
Corey. One thing that the AIS is always looking for is opportunities to connect with our local chapters with more local opportunities. And so this is kind of the first of its kind opportunity opportunity between a local component and students from the area. So we're very excited to see how this goes. A lot of chapters do have individuals that do have mentorship opportunities, but to see more of a overall broad, wide scale type of program is super exciting. So again, thank you to all of the mentors that are volunteering their time. Thank you to all of the students who are interested in participating and being part of this new and exciting opportunity. Along the way, I'm sure we'll go through bumps and maybe get a few bruises, but overall, I'm super excited to see how this all turns out. Like many of you, I am also going to be looking for a job come the end of July. So we'll all be in this together. It's super exciting. So thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Adam, for those words. And, you know, I thought maybe as we embark on this conversation that we're going to have over the next 45 minutes or so, that maybe just kind of lay out how this vision even came about and how we got to where we are. And the conversation obviously started, you know, during the pandemic, where many firms were and still are experiencing some financial challenges, as well as, you know, hiring freezes and things like that. And, you know, as we started to talk as leaders at the boardroom table, we said, you know, we really don't want to lose this next generation that's coming out. We saw this happen at the Great Recession about 10 years ago, and we certainly can't afford to do it again. So we all ask ourselves, what can we do?
You can't hear anything.
Great question. So what can you do when folks aren't hiring and when things look like the way they are? And we say, you know, what if we developed a vehicle to foster connections, right? Because good people know good people. And so while maybe I can't promise you a job, what I can do is promise you connections. And so as you embark on this journey, you know, sometimes you have chemistry with others and sometimes you won't. But what I encourage you to do is just to meet as many people as you can. And hopefully our mentors can be that vehicle to help you meet new people, to expand your network. Because I think in my mind, as I graduated from college, expanding a network was the hardest thing. And for me, that was the power of the AIA, was to introduce you to other folks who, you know, eventually could help you get to places you couldn't get to by yourself. In terms of AIA Virginia, we're roughly 2,500 members. And so if you think about what kind of bench we have, there's 2,500 folks who could step in at any given time to help you out. I'm proud to report for this particular program, we have, I think it's 41 matches. And we actually have more mentors on the bench. And so if you know of other people who would be interested in participating in this, we have a deep group of people who are willing to step in and help and want to invest in your future. I think the other really neat thing about this is that I think our mentors are looking to learn from you just as much as you'll learn from them, which, you know, a mentoring up and down aspect, I think could be really, really special. With that being said, you know, we decided to pull this program together very, very quickly. Our original intent was for it to be those who are graduating in 2020. It was brought to my attention that there may be some undergrads here, and I think that's fine as well. Because again, the point of this is to help you expand your connections and your network. So I would say that's a happy accident. Maybe that's the way to put it. And we were glad and proud to have you here. The concept of this is something that, you know, we want to keep relatively flexible. We don't want anybody to feel like this is a burden on them. And so we're saying, you know, can you meet for 2 hours a month? So maybe those are 2 one-hour sessions. We can talk a little bit more as we get further down the agenda, what an hour together could look like. But we also want to embark on some dialogue today about how do you envision success, you know, as a graduate or a college student? How do mentors envision this success? And why do you even sign up for this, you know? And so I think through that dialogue we have today, it will certainly help set the stage for the next steps, you know, when we leave here today. Some of the things that I've thought of as far as desired outcomes, some are selfish, some are not, right? The selfish piece of me wants to make sure that all these bright young men and women who are in Virginia schools of architecture, they stay here in Virginia, you know? I'm not really interested in our schools being the farm team, and then when you graduate, you go play in LA and New York. I understand some will, but, you know, for me, selfishly, I want as many bright young women here in Virginia to help our own communities and help our own association that I can get. And so that's the selfish part of me. Being unselfish, you know, I really hope, again, that, you know, I touched on expanding your networks. Again, I'll use that phrase, good people know good people. And so I'm hoping that not only will you meet your mentor, but you'll meet many other people through their relationships with other architects. And then lastly, I really, really hope that this is something that stretches well beyond the pandemic. I wish we had been doing this for years to come. It's just the pandemic kind of pushed us here. But I see this being something amazing that's done annually, pandemic or not, just that continual vehicle of fostering these relationships between our young up and coming leaders and those who are already in the profession. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and take a break. I've done enough talking, but I wanna flip the question back to the audience, and maybe we'll start with those who are in college. Why did you decide to participate in this program? And anyone who wants to speak, go ahead, feel free to raise your hand or take yourself off of mute. If nobody speaks, I'll start calling on people. All right, Somrita, did I say that correctly? Okay.
Hello everyone. I'm actually in my last year of graduate school. I'm in the Master of Architecture program. With the pandemic and being an international student, I was really interested to know how could I use this last year I have to gain some skills that would be more effective in the coming years. Because obviously the degree of skill requirement will change after the pandemic, especially with remote work. So that's what I'm looking to learn here.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Who wants to go next?
I can go ahead and step in. I'm a recent graduate, and for me, I saw an opportunity and an open door, and I think that you should seize that when you can, especially if it's kind of just given to you. I'm a student at Virginia Tech, and we have a really great academic advisor who's always kind of giving us these a vast array of opportunities or job applications that we can sign up for. So I just felt that it was something easy enough to seize, and I'm happy to be able to continue to try and network and get a semi foot in the door of what the business of the profession looks like as well.
And Rachel, what would be how would you define success? At the end of this process, looking back, talking to other students, how would you describe success?
I think that it's just about building, like you've been saying, just building a network and making your name kind of be put out there and having integrity behind that. And just knowing that, I know I myself am an accountable person and I have a good work ethic, but being able to express that and show that to other people and have them trust me just as I can trust them, and continuing to kind of create a bigger connection with the, overlying group is for me what success is, and just continuing to instill trust in people and in just our profession and continuing to grow that. Yeah.
Excellent. Webster Allen, I'm gonna call on you.
Yes, personally, I'm a recent graduate from James Madison University, and I really took this opportunity, kind of what Miss Rachel said, Ed. I saw an opportunity and I took it, but I really want to just learn as much as I can as possible, because personally, to me, success is always constantly learning through failure. And I remember a few times I didn't necessarily get an architecture internship at one summer, but I found something that was closely related to my field in terms of property development for affordable housing, and I was interested in that per se. And it's just like, I want to learn as much as I can and about architecture from the designer standpoint, from the developer standpoint. And to me, it's just a constant learning cycle. Personally, that's just all I can say. And I do want to express myself and my creative ideas as well in front of professionals too.
There's plenty of room for you to grow. Thank you for signing up. So, anyone else like to go?
I'll say something. I'm from JMU as well, and it's just really nice to have opportunities that we can get involved with, because we're kind of in the corner, and this is a great way to connect online and just stay inspired. I miss talking about design with people who are so passionate about it as I am. So this is just a good thing for my heart and for obviously definitely connections. I mean, that's number one, but just staying mentally in the design world is really helpful for me.
That's great. And did you say, are you a graduate or are you an undergrad? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just graduated from JMU.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
How about for my mentors? Don't make me start calling on people. All right, Eliza, go ahead.
Well, I've always had interns in my office, high school and college interns, and I love working with them. I actually, so I'm in Alexandria, and TC Williams has a program where the seniors have to work, intern in their field for 3 weeks before they finish high school. And I've had a couple of students from that. And actually one of my students now, this year, she's gonna be a senior at Tech, but in December, she emailed me at my old office, and they forwarded the email to me at my new office. My old office didn't have a position, but my new office did. So she interned this whole semester. But the reason why she came to us was because she had interned with me in high school. And it's just, to me, it's so great to see the growth that happens, especially in design. And I was so impressed with her when she was in high school, and then even more impressed now that she's worked for us for this last semester. Just, I like being able to help others in their growth. And I told her when she was going back to Tech to finish up her senior year, I said, when you get done, let me know. I'm like, if our firm isn't hiring, you know, I've got lots of other friends and connections to other firms, you know, I'd love to help you out. So I like helping the next generation of architects.
Thank you, Eliza. And Eliza is actually a member of our board of directors as well. So it's even more special that she's decided to step up and invest her time into the next generation. Rebecca, I think I saw your hand up. Did I see it up?
You did, sir.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
All righty. Well, I graduated from graduates program the May after 9/11 and was instantly moved to Hong Kong to be with my husband, who was working there. And so I went with a list of names of people I didn't know, but they were AIA members. They were practicing architects, and it was through those individuals that I found my way through the first 3 years of my practice overseas. So that was something that I feel like I had to pay it forward. And so that's why I'm here.
That is great. And I'll brag about you for just a second. So everybody knows that Rebecca took the untraditional path in architecture, which I think is very important to realize that not all of you have to design the greatest buildings on earth, but there's other ways that you can use your skills and expertise to make change. And so Rebecca is a very prolific professional writer for architecture, but is an architect as well. And so Rebecca, thank you for volunteering as well. I'm gonna call on Ben Caston, then Colin Arnold. So Colin, you're on deck. Ben?
Thanks, Corey. Good to see everybody. I work at KTGY. I lead a design studio in Northern Virginia in Tyson's. And we have a pretty robust summer internship program most years. And this year it sort of got put on hold. I'm not saying it's going away entirely, but when this opportunity presented itself, I couldn't help but jump on it. I've been blessed to have a lot of really great mentors throughout my career, and have always felt the need to kind of pay it forward. And you will all too. And I think all the things that Rachel and Webster and Olivia said, you know, building a network, constantly learning, staying inspired about design, those are all the things I want too. And so I just thought that was awesome. So thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Thanks. Welcome, Ben. Thank you. Colin?
Yep. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it. I remember I had a internship during my senior year of high school with an architect, and really kind of set my path towards the profession. And I just look upon that as a really helpful and transformative period. You know, we've had that great recession that we spoke about, and I don't want to see another set of individuals lose out on the opportunities that they've worked so hard to date to achieve. And again, as Ben said, we've had summer interns throughout and may not have one this year just because of the situation. But so looking at this as an opportunity to provide any resources, any advice I can, just to help any way I can. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. I'll call on one more, then I'm going to flip back to the graduates, but I want to hear some more from them as well. Mr. David Peabody, I'm just randomly picking. I think you're on mute, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, loud and clear. Welcome.
Sorry. I think I share what everyone has said about wanting to help the next generation moving along. And I just particularly am concerned right now, coming out of school, having sort of a big stumble right when you get out of the door of architecture school can really be tough and have ramifications the rest of your career. So I think I think the reason I responded was just that little extra impetus to try to help people through that.
Great, and thank you for volunteering your time. And I'll take a couple of more. I'm gonna flip back to the graduate side. Anybody, or Allie, I see you just raise your hand. Go ahead.
I just wanted to give the comfort of, I came out during the Great Recession. So I came out of Maryland. I was like ready to have a job, ready to do everything. And I got to move home and live with my parents for a little bit. And I just want to give the comfort of, it's okay. It's okay if you don't get an internship, and it's okay if you can't do all of those things. They will come, and just the fact that you're participating in this program and making some connections, that is enough, and you will be okay. It will be fine. I am a project architect. I'm licensed. I'm running part of a studio. I'm the Young Architect Regional Director with Virginia's, and I never had an internship. I didn't have a mentor. So the fact that you guys are actually doing this, like, kudos, and it will be okay. I promise.
And thank you for those words of encouragement, for sure. And Allie is actually our Young Architects Regional Director, which is actually a national position. So she represents the interest of all of our young architects, which are those who have been licensed 10 years or less. So she represents that voice from both Virginia and West Virginia at the national level. So truly an advocate for your career growth. I'd like to take a couple of more before we move on. I want to make sure I have enough time for open discussion, any questions that you all may have. I'll go with Mr. Taryn Jones, and then I'm looking at Christina Drexel. So Taryn.
Hello, and it's Taryn.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So I was pretty interested in this program simply because as a recent graduate of the University of Virginia, I wasn't exactly sure about where I wanted to go next. And so I thought that someone with a little bit more experience can help me kind of like refine exactly what I want to do and like what are the best resources to kind of get to that point. I think, at least with my architectural education, it was pretty broad. And I made it that way on purpose, but I think now that coming out of it, I want to start to narrow it down a little bit more and just think about what role I play within the larger field.
Great, and welcome from UVA. All right, and Christina.
Yeah, hi. So I actually have maybe the opposite perspective because I have a very narrow field of interest, and so I'm a Virginia Tech graduate. So I just did my thesis all on the relationship of food and architecture, and I feel very passionately about using design as a way to kind of help repair the US's food system and make it much more sustainable and provide really good access to food to everyone. And yeah, so I was trying to find and see like if I could find a mentor who could really support me in my endeavor to try and do this, because I don't think it's something that's very common. Yeah.
Great. I look forward to hearing the results of how things shake out for you, Christina. It sounds really exciting and impactful for our communities. And, you know, as we think about what does this thing look like as we move forward, you know, we're thinking this is probably a virtual thing, but I would leave it to you and your mentor's judgment. If, you know, if you're located in the same city and feel comfortable, you know, grabbing coffee together and so forth, I'll let you all kind of make that determination. But when this was originally born, we're thinking this is more of a virtual exercise, but we also know that we won't be in a pandemic forever. So, you know, meeting twice a month, an hour each. If you want to meet more than that, that's great. Some of the things that we've kind of thought of as activities could be things like obviously getting to know each other. Perhaps that's the first meeting, just talk. You know, as you move forward, you know, understand what your career goals are, and maybe that will shape the body of work that moves forward. Mock interviews, right? Whether the firm is hiring or not, just having a mock interview and going through that process so you can get more and more comfortable when things start to turn around. Perhaps you can sit in on some staff meetings and your mentor introduce you to members of the staff. And you can listen to see how debates and design critiques go on within a firm. So all of these are things, and these are just, you know, conversation starters, but I trust that you and your mentor will, you know, together work on a plan that meets both of you where you need to be met at. You know, in terms of education, there's tons of lunch and learns. And so one thought is that you could attend a virtual lunch and learn and spend some time talking about how that's really applicable to the real world in design and practice. So almost like a continuation of your professional practice course. You know, I'll stop there and open the floor to any kind of questions. We can have an open discussion. I'll just reiterate that this was put together not so much to have a very rigid structure, but just enough to kind of give you some guide rails and guardrails. We do think that each pairing will be different and everybody's needs will be different. So with that, open the floor to any questions anybody might have. I'm scanning for hands, but I haven't seen any. Webster, if I don't call on you, you can just go ahead and shout. I have a lot of little tiles on my screen here.
Yes, I just probably have a question for, I guess, the professional mentors. What I would just ask, what did you learn in sort of the professional world that was sort of different from your university or trade school that you possibly came from? I would just say, what's the difference in those two environments?
Literally everything.
Who was that? Okay.
Hi, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Kat, and I actually graduated 3 years ago from UVA, so I'm not too far ahead of a lot of you. But yeah, I would say school, and it depends a little bit on the school, but school versus practice are two completely different animals. And a lot of what you learn in school, you can approach in practice, but it's in a very different way because when you're actually doing architecture, you're dealing with building codes and clients who often have very strict programs and needs. And, you know, a budget, which you don't have to deal with in school usually. And there's just usually a lot more restrictions on what you're doing, but I have found it kind of beneficial because I think it makes it more interesting to design in that way. Rather than what is often the school approach of like, the world is your oyster and you can do whatever you want, which I think for some people can be a little overwhelming. But yeah, you're gonna learn completely different skills working than you would in school. So that's my soapbox.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to add on to Kat's comments?
I do, actually. This is Carrie Parker. I'm an architect at CannonDesign. I've been out of school for 7 years, and generally speaking, you know, school and the way they teach you, it gives you the freedom to challenge, to work with a variety of personalities, and learn new skills and stretch certain design muscles. And you just apply them in a completely different way when you're in the field. And also, you know, when you graduate, you know, you feel like you're at the top and you've learned everything, and then you get out into the world and realize you know nothing, and then you start studying for your AREs, and then you realize, oh, I really know nothing. So and then you get to the end of the exams and you're like, wow, I don't feel like I am qualified to actually legally take responsibility for anything for probably another 10 years. So it's wonderful and scary that, you only get better as an architect the longer that you're in it, and the more experiences that you can collect and grow on.
Great comments, Carrie. I almost put you on mute. I thought you were going to scare these people away. So,
no.
Nick, were you going to say something, Nick Cooper?
Just a couple words. I mean, for me, I've been out of school for a while. I graduated in 2002, and so there's one thing that has been consistent from then till now is the speed at which we work. Obviously back when I had thesis, I probably took too long on my project, but I had, a full year to work on one project. It was a mixed use project. And now I'm constantly being pushed either, through internal deadlines or by a client to create things quicker, to come up with iterations quicker. Now we have basically, 2 weeks to come up with a couple designs for 600,000 square feet of mixed use development for an interview, for example. So the speed in which we work is quite different. And also the collaborative settings, we have teams, based on the scale of the project of up to, 50, 60 people, right? So being able to collaboratively work with people is quite important. Me personally, I sought out a few people in school to work closely with the last couple of years of my education, but sometimes that's not apparent, although I am seeing a lot of resumes where there is group work, so I definitely encourage that. So that's all I have to add.
Nick, and I'll just bring it to a close on this question. It's from my personal experience. I was a former practitioner, but predominantly in project management and business development, which is a fancy word of bringing projects in for the firm to do. So not much on the design side, but what I learned is that how important your communication skills are, particularly in writing, especially if you're a firm that does public work. And so often, in order to get a job or a commission, a public entity would say, hey, I need building XYZ design. If you think you're qualified, you pull together a booklet and you show me why. And then if I like your booklet, I'll invite you in to come talk to you, right? And so just to even get your foot in the door is based on how well you write and communicate your ideas, your vision, and your potential. And so there's oftentimes they'll never even see you, right? Before inviting you in to come and talk about the project in more detail. So that first step, putting your foot forward, is based off of writing a lot of times. And so from my experience, it's those little things that we almost take for granted, but in the real world, they are magnified in order to be very successful. Any other questions? Thanks, Webster, for your question.
I have a quick one, actually. I'm interested in the people who did graduate into a recession, how you ended up kind of pivoting in that moment and what you were looking at as maybe alternative design or alternative job opportunities, and then how you then maybe use that opportunity, whether design related or not, to pivot back into the industry.
Excellent question, Rachel. Who wants to take that hot one?
I'll take that.
All right.
I graduated in '96, which was in the middle of one recession, not the most extreme one, but when I graduated, I had zero network. I was out west in Arizona State and only knew a couple of people out there. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and my plan was to go back to the islands. But because I studied in the States, I had no network over there either. So the way that it worked out was that one of my classmates actually connected me with my first job. And it was a brand new firm that was just starting because of the recession, but they had good contacts. And I started like that. And it took a few years to build up the knowledge base. And then by the last recession in 2009, I got laid off again. So I had to reinvent myself again. So now I'm sustainability consulting. So I'm not doing design, I'm doing sustainability consulting now. Although I have all the initials behind your name, right? AIA, NCAR, VAP. You know, some people joke that I have too many letters behind my name, but I'm more of a specialist now than before.
Thank you, Louis. Let's see, Sean Reilly. Did you have your hand up, sir?
Oh, thanks, Corey. I sort of graduated in between a couple of recessions. They seem to occur about every 7 or 8 years. I've been through about 5 of them now. And about a year after I graduated, I found a good job upon graduation, but about a year after I started, the recession of the early 80s took hold and had a major impact to the profession. I remember I was in Chicago at the time, and Skidmore, Owings & Merrill had grown from maybe 300 people to 900 people over the last 7 or 8 years, and they were letting 40 to 50 people go every Friday, like week after week after week. And it was like that throughout the whole city at different scales. And I was eventually laid off. I was a year and a half into my career. I was pretty bummed out, devastated, I would say. It's something you just never expect. And so, but I always wanted to work in a traditional practice, and nobody was hiring in Chicago. So I figured if I was going to find a job, I needed to go somewhere else. So I sent over 60 letters to firms on the East Coast, and think I had 2 interviews out of those 60. And I took a job with one of them, and it turned out to be a great opportunity for me and opened incredible doors that I never could have imagined had I not been through that gauntlet. And eventually that led to my coming to Virginia, where I've been for a while now. And so, you know, I stayed with my original goals, I guess, you know, under the trauma of the recession and the trauma of unemployment. I just wanted to stay with my original goal of working in a traditional practice and designing and building buildings. And so I just stayed with that until I found a situation, and it led me to, you know, it pivoted my career in a way I never could have foreseen, and it all turned out pretty well. You know, much better and much different than I ever could have expected. And so, you know, history has chosen you all to be the graduates into the pandemic and recession of 2020 for reasons that are totally out of your control and none of us understand. But you will be stronger for it. You'll change and it'll strengthen your character. And I would encourage you all to just stay true to your dreams and your passions and continue to pursue them with everything that you have. And I'm very excited to be a part of this program and want to help you find a way and stay within the profession. Thanks.
That's great. That's inspirational. Louis and Sean, you guys got me fired up. I'll tell you what. So who else has a question?
I'd like to just add something to what you had said, Corey, about writing. Like, I'm sitting here going, gosh, what was I doing in the recession? Because there was that big one. And I wanted to add what you had said about writing, because I was in a firm in Raleigh in more traditional practice. And but everybody knew I was the writer. And that's, I think, what saved my job, was that I made it all the way through that recession and eventually started my own business in 2010. But it was because I could write, and other people in the front, and I could communicate. So I think at this point in your careers, this is a great time to do everything you can to brush up on those skills. And, you know, one of the great ways to do that is networking and being in a forum like this, where you're talking to new people and you're talking about your ideas. that's a great way to hone those skills. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, that's great. Thanks for adding that additional context. Carrie Parker, looks like you had placed something in our chat box about, will AIA Virginia host an emerging professionals exhibit similar to AIA National with no cost to entry? I'm embarrassed to say I'm not sure what the exhibit you're referring to is. Could you explain?
Sure. So AIA National, I think it was actually due in February, was hosting a emerging professionals exhibit, and I actually don't know if it's gone online yet, just because of or in their
online.
gallery because of everything that's going on. But it's there's no fee to enter. It's not a design competition. It's just to get your designs out there and acknowledged and get any constructive criticism. And I saw that, I don't remember if it was AIA Nova or Virginia proper. I saw that there were design competitions, and there's one due, well, not design competitions, but design submissions for existing and unbuilt work. And I think it's due end of June, but I also saw it was like $200, $250 to enter. So I was just thinking it'd be great if there was a platform to allow students to continue building their software skills, and even an excuse to maybe punch up graphics or further develop any school project work for their portfolio, and set that deadline so that way they have incentive to actually do so.
Yeah. That's a great idea, and Kathy, my partner in crime, is taking notes, and so she'll jot that down, and we'll have some follow-up discussion internally about what we can do to explore that more further. So, Carrie.
And then I wanted to tack on to the writing idea too. Yeah, soft skills are absolutely critical. And one creative thing that you can do is to find, if you feel you have a voice, if you want to develop it, if you have ideas that you want to share, reach out to the major online architecture publications, ArcDaily, Architizer, write some articles, submit them. They may pay you, actually. My husband too does writing for manufacturers, and he's an architect, and he gets paid like per word, so his articles tend to be a little long, but very Charles Dickens. But there are some creative ways that you can build those skills during this time.
Great advice. And I would even add to throw in Toastmasters in there, which is something I had done, which is a community organization that helps you in your public speaking skills. Believe it or not, there's not a lot of people in architecture firms that are really great public speakers. And so if you find that's a passion that you can hone in, or a skill set you can sharpen, you can certainly use that combined with great writing skills to be a pretty lethal component to your team. If you can read well and speak well, you will go places within your firm and probably make a lot more money than just a regular architect. So
HKS Dallas actually had an in-house Toastmasters group back when I was there pre-2008 as an intern, and I got really interested in that. And every once in a while when I get bored at work, I start to look for a Toastmasters group nearby. There's several that meet within the area. I've also had bosses tell me, there's a certain character of people who go through Toastmasters, and they actually encourage you to balance that with improv lessons, which I thought was very appropriate. That Toastmasters tends to be scripted and fluid, but you got to know how to think on your feet and respond to your clients in the interview room or in your meetings.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Corey, can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, mention for a moment about the process you and I went through to make these matches.
Yeah.
Wasn't anything, greatly scientific. It was about the little bit of information you gave us when you said you were interested. And also, some of you we know pretty well. But in the case where we've made a bad match, we ask for your grace, and please reach out to Corey or I, and we're happy to make accommodations on either side, either mentor or mentee. So please, don't give up on the opportunity if something doesn't work out. So.
Well, I apologize for missing a portion of the beginning. I had a little technical difficulty with a thunderstorm last night that kicked out our power for about 6 hours. But did you talk about how you see these matches working? How we pursue that?
Yeah, so as Kathy had just indicated, there was no scientific process per se in making a match. It's just taking information that was provided by those in college or recent graduates. And then some of the mentors we know very well, so we thought might be a good match, and others we don't. And it's trying to just match those up. The follow up on that, we think that, meeting a couple of times a month, we're asking for a commitment of 2 hours a month. So I guess you could do 1 2-hour session, or, you could do 2 1-hour sessions. If you want to do more, that's fine. But I think what you'll find is that there's gonna be flexibility there based off of the needs of your mentee and your needs as a mentor. One of the things you probably missed was just our conversation on how you're defining success. And I think for each couple, that'll be different, right? And so you need to cater to those needs. We threw out a few ideas of things that you could do. You could invite your mentee to a staff meeting or to a design charrette that you guys are doing internally. Mock interviews, take them behind the scenes if you're doing a virtual site visit, particularly during this time. If you're on site virtually, maybe you could FaceTime them in or something like that so they can walk the site with you. And, the limits are none is what I'm saying, Mark. So that's the thinking. It's relatively flexible. We just want to provide some guardrails, and then maybe it makes sense for this group to convene maybe in 30 or 45 days just to check in and see how things are going. Okay. Any other questions or points of discussion?
This is Michael. Sorry, I missed the beginning as well. Speaking as I believe I'm on the mentor side, but also having recently been in the mentee position, I just want to encourage people who are mentees to reach out. I mean, sometimes I think that's a hard thing to do, but even just small touches are really helpful. Even if I remember thinking I was imposing, and then my mentor saying I'm really glad you reached out. So I'm speaking from the other side now, is to say, if you feel like you're not getting in touch or something, or you're not sure if you should reach out, from my perspective, that little nudge is really helpful. It was really helpful for me. And I feel like now on the other side, I want to encourage you to reach out, check in, ask to be a part of things if you would like.
That's great advice, Michael. And maybe one of the questions you ask within your group is, how do you prefer to be communicated with? And I mean, for me, I get literally almost 200 emails a day. And so maybe a text message might be a better way to get in touch with me than piling on to 200 emails I get every single day. And so I think, again, based off of the dynamic with you and your mentee, I think you'll work those things out. It's a great point, Michael. What else is out there? I can't see all hands, so if I don't call on you, feel free to unmute yourself and shout.
I'll add something here if I can.
Yes, sir, Claude.
Hey there all. I was a graduate at Iowa State University in the spring of 2008. And let me tell you, that was a lot of fun. And one of the questions earlier was about how you pivoted and adapted and all of that. And I think I sent out close to 300 application packets. I probably flew to 8 cities or drove. I think I had over 50 interviews of various types. And I was a very craft-oriented kind of detail design, artist side of architect. The technical stuff wasn't terribly interesting to me. And I had actually relegated to, man, I just needed a job and I needed to make some money. So I was applying at NBBJ, big corporate things. And ironically, after being rejected at NBBJ, I got down to 3 out of 300 finalists for 3 jobs in the whole country. The Elizabeth Bachman, the president of NBBJ, was talking to me. She said, you know what? You actually shouldn't work for us. You need to work for Cutler Anderson Architects, which is a firm of 10 people across the bay on Ambridge Island. I said, they'll never hire me. And she said, send them your stuff. And I mean, I've been trying to get a job for 6 months. And a few hours later, I had an interview. And I was fortunate enough. I don't think I would have ended up in a, level of quality of that without, the arduous process of getting rejected over and over and over again. So I guess the point of all that is be flexible. I mean, that opportunity opened up out of a lot of failed opportunities. And, since then I was able to work through the depression. I got my IDP completed. I got licensed. And I've worked for myself here in the Blue Ridge for about 5 years. So that being said, being a sole proprietor, actually, I really look forward to some interaction with some fresh minds and fresh ideas. It has its pluses and minuses, but my ideas are getting stale. So, if I can offer some encouragement, stay flexible. Don't be afraid to keep trying. There are opportunities out there. We're lucky in that actually in a depression, I learned that folks with money, it's a great time to build. So there are people, there's less jobs, but there's good jobs out there. Not everybody's going under. So we had fairly wealthy, clients that essentially kept us in business, and we didn't have to lay anybody off. So don't lose all hope and be flexible. Flexibility.
I add to that. I actually know a lot of firms, and our firm, in fact, is fairly busy. But there's a new problem in terms of hiring, which is the pandemic. A very large portion of our staff, maybe 90%, are telecommuting. And to hire somebody right out of school or with very little experience and tell them they're either going to telecommute or come into the office, we've asked a couple of people to come in and they're just not interested in coming into the office, even though precautions are taken. Has anybody else encountered this, or anybody have any ideas of how this might be handled?
So we actually hired a summer intern at my firm at Grimm & Parker, and she is currently fully remote. So we had our HR and our IT person just basically call her and walk her through on the phone and through the computer, and then just had like a virtual happy hour to say, hello, here we are. And I think it's not ideal, but it's not impossible. And I think especially with people who are recently graduating, they have the skills to work remotely. So if you as a firm are comfortable doing that, I think, again, it's not the ideal solution, but it's not impossible.
Well, the downside is the person that you're hiring has no institutional knowledge and probably have a greater need of supervision. Are you finding that you can supervise over Zoom?
I mean, you can do screen shares. So
yeah.
You can, it's not as easy, but I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a hurdle that can't be overcome. But it also depends on experience.
Thank you.
Good.
We're a 1,000-person firm, and in Arlington, we're 50 people. And 100% of our workforce that remains after layoffs and furloughs is 100% remote. And every office has a different date and also process that they're targeting and developing for going back to the office. And we're not looking at any sooner than after the 4th of July right now, just depending on how things go. But we also have very tight desks. So at 6 feet spacing, we can only hit 30% capacity of our office. And, some people have kids, and with childcare, it's just easier that, maybe they come in for mornings or afternoons or every other day. So we actually just had a presentation this morning at our monthly staff meeting about that, and gathering individual information of what's your comfort level. You know, some of our employees who are over 60 and, you know, have pre-existing conditions, they're like, you know, my doctor flat out said, don't go anywhere in public until there's a vaccine ready, because it's not a safety concern, it's a life and death issue, and for a lot of people, and it's difficult for some people to frame this issue as life or death, as opposed to safety and what's going on outside the door. But we use Teams and Zoom and GoToMeeting, and we do informal chats. We haven't done, our new hires already have experience with software, so they don't need a whole lot of hand-holding. But, you know, even when you think about when you're in the office, you're not 100% holding their hand all the time. It's maybe whenever you're able to stop by or whenever you get a free time. So it's just the same thing. You reach out through IM or call or text, and you do what you need to.
Great insight, Carrie. Looking at the clock, down to 120 seconds. So before I close this out, I would like to give Beth or Adam or Karma, if you want an opportunity to say anything before I close this out, please have at it. Beth, would you like to say anything?
Sure. I was really happy with how many people participated. We had so many people give their perspectives, and I thought it was a great conversation, great interaction, and I really appreciate everybody joining us today. And I'm looking forward to us continuing this again, maybe in 30 to 45 days, as Corey said, and checking in with each other again. So thanks for attending, everyone.
Yes. Thank you, Beth. Adam or Karma, would you like to provide any remarks from AIAS?
Karma wrote a nice comment in the chat.
Oh, got it. Got it. All right, we'll consider that piece done. And then from me, I just want to say, obviously, thank you to our mentors who have stepped up to the plate in this very important work. Not that you're not already busy, but you know, I don't see this as a chore. This is an investment, right? We're investing in the next generation. So I want to say thank you all for signing up, and I want to congratulate those who have graduated and those that will be graduating. Congratulations for taking a step forward and taking control of your own destiny, right? Stepping up to the plate and doing that. As next steps, you'll likely see an additional email that probably provides a recap of this conversation. I do know it's being recorded, but you know, sometimes it's a lot easier to read a 1 or 2 page executive summary opposed to listening to an hour, you know, at your desk. So you have that choice. You know, you can listen to the recording or get an executive summary. We'll resend out the matches, and I'll leave it to you all to take it from there. And then I'll set up a date for us to reconvene. I'm probably thinking the middle of July. And I'll end on this one positive note, particularly in everything that's happening right now in current events when you watch the news. But I'll say, you know, my screen looks pretty beautiful. I'm looking across, and there's so many different people, ages, colors, creeds, men, women. My screen looks beautiful. And so I think that's such a positive thing, particularly what we're seeing in the news right now. And so I think we have the opportunity to be that bright light, you know, as we move forward and set the example for everybody else to follow. So with that, I ran over by 60 seconds, so I apologize, but have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all in about 30 to 45 days. And so thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.